Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Spiritu? Here. Mr. Gorbutz?
Here.
Ms. Laird? Here. Mr. Price? Ms. Ray? Yeah, here.
Approve or amend and sign the minutes of the regular meeting held July 12th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Moved by Ms. Laird,
Second.
second by Mrs. Espiritu.
That's Mrs. Ray.
Mrs. Ray.
Mrs. Ray.
Sorry. Always.
That's that over there.
All right. Second by
Young
Mrs.
one.
Ray. Any questions regarding the minutes? Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Ms. Spiritu? Yes. Mr. Gorbutz?
Yes. Motion carried. Walk-on item?
No walk-on items per se, but I do have an edit, if I may, with the board's permission. In your packet this evening is the staff handbook, and we did find one thing that we missed this afternoon. So I just draw your attention, and for the record, on page 31, during our negotiations, we added one vacation day for all the levels of seniority. So instead of 6 days after a year, it's 7 work days, and right on down. So there's one additional day vacation added to the schedule. So we'd just like the record to show that we had it right in our negotiations and all the official documents, but hadn't translated it on to the employee handbook. So just draw your attention to that. That's all I have, Mr. Foreman.
Okay. Legislative liaison report.
I have no new items for a report this evening, just 2 follow-ups. First, John, just wanted to see if you've given any thought to what student program we could maybe highlight at the Capitol Conference. We talked about maybe
actually,
the PLC or
Yes.
that's something?
Denise, I kind of turned her on to it.
Great.
Please.
Yes, good evening. We were brainstorming some different options and looking at some different pieces. And so we have reached out to our elementary art department to looking at our elementary art teachers with their brand new studios. They have access to some different components that they can enhance their curriculum and some different pieces. They all have a clay room. They've had access to kilns before and they've had that, but it's all very close in proximity. So we know that last year was a little bit different with students at the elementary level, in, some out. So it did change a few things, but I have a brainstorming session with the teachers. And we're going to kind of pull together what we looked at from last year that was new in their art studio and maybe at the very beginning part of this year. But I have also reached out to Gwen, and she has directed me as to how to make that application. And so that is our intent. To be able to have something amazing we have great things with our students to be able to showcase and so
And
trying
we
to think
kinda
of
went-
something
Definitely.
different that
Sounds
we
good,
haven't
yes.
done. Last year we did the technology at the middle school piece. I know we did some high school choir a couple of years ago. We've done orchestra. So just kind of trying to find a different aspect.
We haven't done elementary per se in quite a while. So
Right.
Sounds good. That sounds great.
Yep.
And one other item in follow up to our discussion with critical race theory, we talked about maybe having Shari present
Yes.
one of her diversity sessions.
And I hope to get that on the schedule as we talk about our next work sessions coming up. Make sure she's a regular component to those.
Wonderful. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
This evening, just a few things before we get into our work session, Mr. Gorbutz. Thank you. You saw a flyer at your place, members. It's our Unity and Diversity. We've done this for several years. It's really a partnership with all of those entities on there, the Fremont City Schools, Farmers Market, and it's a tour of the world theme where you can actually get a passport and go to different places down at the market and get your passport filled out to get some prizes and so forth. It's a great day. We'll have the drum line down there from the band. It's always always a great day. So just drawing your attention to that, you're certainly welcome to come. December 5th, a little development. I announced last week or last meeting that December 5th would be an open community open house for all of our new buildings, including this one. And talking to the construction team, we decided to go ahead with the board's approval to have a 1 o'clock ribbon cutting opening ceremony at Ross High School, at the new Ross, and sort of kick off the open house with an official ribbon cutting. Everybody will be in town. Everyone will be here. Very excited about that day. I've got a lot of positive correspondence from people who are looking forward to coming. So it's going to be a very, very good day, a great day of celebration. So just mark that on your calendars, and also I'll get something out to you. So 1 o'clock, right before we open up the doors for the open house, we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony and a quick dedication. Not a long ceremony, just something brief to thank the community for their generosity, and then open up the doors for our beautiful new facility at Ross. And like I said, also open up our elementaries and middle school for anybody who'd like to see. And that's December 5th. And then as Ms. Laird mentioned, today I was a little on pins and needles. There was a big announcement that the governor was going to roll out maybe some new guidance for schools. Well, it held tight with what we'd had before. So luckily what I put out is accurate still. There's no mandate. We will encourage like crazy. We will do the best we can to encourage anybody that wants to wear a mask to do so, to stay safe, to protect those at home. We will continue to clean and distance as much as possible. All those practices that we put in place to keep ourselves safe, we will continue to do all those things, but we'll not mandate masks. And that is where we are now. And I've also qualified every time I've responded to a parent, that's where we are now. And we're praying that it doesn't get any worse, and then we can continue that practice. So right now we look like we're in good shape with our opening school COVID practices. So with masks, I think that's all I have as far as my report. I would like to, we'll have more with Denise's presentation for the work session, but that's it for me.
Where is the bulk of this program going to be?
It's one of the farmers markets down on Front Street Saturday morning.
Oh,
It's just kind of a all morning event that it just has a theme of unity and diversity. So it's got a worldwide theme to it, and we just celebrate our diversity in Fremont and try to make everyone know that they're included, and we're doing the best we can to be inclusive.
and December 5th is the date for the...
Open house / ribbon cutting dedication ceremony. Yes, sir. More details to come.
Excuse me. Okay, so on the cultural art gallery, will any of our
Yes,
be there?
yes, we have some, and we've been collecting those. Actually, last winter, we alerted our principals to start working on it. So we have a lot of work that the students have done that will be on display. So we're pretty excited to see that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been working on that for months.
John, on the ribbon cutting, will students be involved? Get all the others?
Only if I'm involved.
No, okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. You can
Okay.
guarantee it.
Good.
Absolutely.
They were kind of the highlight on
You
the
know
others.
it.
I think that's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it's about.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, recommendations of the superintendent, board work.
Okay, if I may, board the topics, and we're going to start getting into our departments as we work into our next work sessions. We're not sure where we'll start yet, but we'll have a calendar for you laying out, music, math, art, whatever we'd like to sort of, just so we're on the schedule. And we can add things in there with work sessions, whatever the board pleases. But this one, Mr. Gorbetz asked about a while ago, and I know some of the board members were curious. We decided tonight to talk about our online option. And I think it's appropriate to talk about that tonight as we're getting ready to warm up school. But we've been having this conversation since January at least, just what this would look like and how we can make that happen. Right now, we are planning just an operation or just a plan for high school students to be virtual. We don't really have a plan for K-8. Now, I know that, and Mr. Gorbetz and I have talked about this quite a bit too, if things would get worse and we would start to have excessive quarantines or more serious numbers, we will revisit that. But we'd like to start with the plan that all K through 8 students, we believe as the best learning model, are in school. Now that's a tough thing, but we've thought about it a lot, and that's kind of where I'm at. I think we can start school and do the best we can. Now, just so you know, if a child is sick or if they get quarantined, we'll treat it just as if they were sick. You know, we've never been better at handling students who aren't in school. I mean, we've learned by fire to take care of virtual learning. So if, let's say, a child's going to be home for 2 weeks, 10-day quarantined, they will just shift with that same teacher at school and then be at home learning the same thing they would have if they'd had the mumps or measles or be home for the tonsillitis or anything else. But if it's a long-term thing, then we might maybe start reconsidering. Now, so for example, if the government would come out and say, well, we're going to take a month off school, then we'd have to shift everybody over and keep on going. So the model we're going to show you tonight does have some flexibility in it, and that's why we call it a blended learning model. The state gave us several choices. They gave us a full-blown, all virtual, no contact option. We've sort of gone with what was called the blended learning option, which is still going to be supported by someone at school. Now, we'll get more into details. Denise has done a great job presenting that, but I would like to just give that overview of where we're headed tonight. I'll let Denise kind of show sort of the application process. We have it up here. We already have 30 students who have applied, filled out the application to be blended learners. And I'm sure that number will continue to grow a little bit as we get closer to school. So Denise, I'll let you go ahead and start, and I'll jump in and out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening and share some of this information. We do have a blended learning opportunity for Fremont City Schools for the 21-22 school year. The plan was, there was a timeline to submit that plan to the Ohio Department of Education. We submitted that the beginning part of June. So as Mr. Detweiler said, we've really been thinking about all of this throughout. We did made a purchase of some software platform that came before you also for Edgenuity, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that as we get going. We did change up some policy that came before our policy committee at the end of the school year and came back before you on July 12th. So we've had this ongoing conversation. And one of the reasons that we definitely want to make sure that we are considering the blended learning option as opposed to the online learning option is because the blended learning option provides us opportunities, some flexibility K-12 with our whole entire system. One of the things that is new to our district with our last negotiated agreement this spring is that after our 5th calamity day, on day 6, that we are unable to have seated school instruction, we know that we will then have school electronically. So that allows us, that blends us literally into this model of sometimes we're seated and we're providing instruction, and sometimes we're going to be virtual in a bigger sense. And so it's that in and out that allows us the flexibility.
You recall on our school calendar for years, there's been makeup days in June, you know, that these are potential days we would need if we needed to make some up after or beyond the calamity. So right now our plan is that there really won't be in that opportunity, because if we would have 5 snow days, day 6 will be a virtual learning day. And that's something we negotiate with both unions this spring. So we think that's good to go, and I do believe that the model that we've come up with will really lend itself well to that.
And as Mr. Detweiler said earlier, whether it was baptism by fire or we just jumped in with both feet last year, we are more prepared than ever to switch back and forth and provide that instruction. All of our teachers in the district have teacher web pages set up. They are all familiar with their Google Classroom, which allows them opportunity for instruction. Whether they're seated and students are right in front of them, there's a reason to use that Google Classroom, or whether my students are at home and need to have access to my learning that day. So these are pieces that are already in place. We will do some refreshers in August with staff when they're coming back, but we have those pieces ready to go. So if we're getting close and we know that day 6 might be the next one or might be the next one after that, our teachers will be ready and our students will be ready, and we'll be able to continue that instruction. I think will be very positive. The other aspect of blended learning allows us to consider that virtual option that we've been discussing at our grades 9 through 12. So we have looked at Edgenuity. That is the software platform that we have decided to go with after our committee debate. So we will have 9 through 12 grade students that are choosing that virtual option, that their primary content will come from the software platform. But it will be blended in the sense that we will still offer some support in-house in our building at Ross High School. And so we really want to make sure that both parents and students that are involved in this Little Giant Virtual Academy understand that and have access. So we'll communicate what days of the week and what times. And I'm still brainstorming that with the Ross administration. Mr. Zeller has indicated that he might have would like some flexibility in time. And maybe there's a couple days during the week that the teacher is available till 5 o'clock at night, for example, and maybe starts a little bit later in the day on that day so that we have some variety of option with hours and support. So we're going to continue to work through those details, and then we'll convey all that information as well. But I think that idea that both online, virtual, on their pace, around their schedule, in their home is part of that. But then we're not losing sight of the fact that we have some offerings for some support in the building.
I think another thing we've learned last year was that frustration with the teachers that had both. From sixth grade up, they had students all day and then a period a day or some time during the day to support those students at home. It was a rough challenge. So what we're done with our ESSER money that we got from the federal government, we talked about hiring tutors and hiring teaching staff. That will be dedicated intervention tutors that will be assigned to these kids. So it's not the math teacher teaching all day and then one period a day trying to do that. Now, they will also have access to the teachers for help and support, and obviously will be a team, but that frontline teacher will be someone who's dedicated only to these folks. A little bit like our elementary teachers where, we had 1 and 3 in each building that was dedicated to the at-home learners. Now that, we don't need that either, fortunately, but we think there was some good to that and maybe some not so good. This thing is the best combination of all of that. So we'll have an intervention tutor who is assigned to these at-home kids to meet with them however we need to, virtually, in-house, at home maybe, who knows, whatever it takes to make sure they have the support they need to be successful. So we think we've got a little bit of best of both models there to make this work.
Question.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have all of the equipment needed for every student to have?
That's covered, and we're going there. And you'll see in the application. Yeah, it's okay. That's all right. It's a great question. We're headed there. Vi, you're way ahead of us actually, because we do have that on the application, so we know the status of their access and device and so forth. So.
And they're not, the devices that we've ordered are not in the district yet, but are in process. And remember that our goal is this year to be 1-to-1 at Ross High School. So every student will receive a device to be able, grades 9 through 12 will have a device directly supporting their instruction, wherever their instruction is taking place.
So both the kids in school and the kids at home will have a device from us this year.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you probably will cover it.
Okay.
But okay, if every student will have a device, will those students have those whether or not they're school in their home all the time?
They will have the opportunity to take that home, grades 9 through 12, okay, with our 1-to-1 policy that we're changing for next school year, and the devices that so generously you guys have been able to support. Every student grades 9 through 12 will have a device for instructional purposes, and they'll be able to keep that and take that back and forth, bring it to school to use in the classroom with their teachers, take it home, do homework, do reading, type their paper, bring it back to school, connect, print it off, share that document with their teacher. It will be very, very fluid. Every device will have a case, okay, in order to keep it protected. It will be signed out to that student. It'll be tied directly to that student and family. We have purchased some of the warranty components. So if something goes wrong, they'll bring it in. We have a few extras. We'll swap it out. We'll send it back, bring it back.
I was concerned if some of the families or kids that wouldn't be important. It could be like a toy at home for a brother or sister, whatever that.
Right. And we do have the option when the family signs that out, may have families who don't prefer that their child bring that device home. that they would prefer it stay at school to be protected or for that reason. And certainly we'll have an opportunity for a place for them to turn it in at the end of the school day so it can be plugged in and charged, and then a place for them to retrieve it in the morning to get it back to be ready to be a learner that day. Good thoughts. Okay, what I'd like to show you, this is our Little Giant Virtual Academy. This is our logo that was created very, very locally at Ross High School. One of our art teachers created the logo, and we had some fun with that in the spring. We had a really nice committee that has really hashed through many of the details of what this academy will be for our high school students in terms of creating the application and the communication. So at the end of the school year, communication went out to all incoming 9 through 12. So current 8 through 11 students in the spring all received information via final forms, informing them that this was a thing and that they could apply, and this is how you get the application. So we did do all of that communication, which feels like so long ago, like way back in May. So the application is available on our district website, as well as paper copies are available at the district office and at the main office at Ross High School. So there's options for families. And I just wanted to be able to walk you through and show you how easy this is for our families to find. So this is our district website. So when a family will go here, or a student, if they click on the left-hand column under schools and scroll down to Ross High School, this is our Ross High School page. We have announcements, we have scheduling information, and right there we have the at-home learning Little Giant Virtual Academy. Again, tells them where they can find the application, tells them that it's due by August 2nd, and if they have questions to please let us know. And simply by clicking anywhere on that logo takes you directly to the application and contract. And again, if there's they would rather not, if they don't have access to printing it and would like that printed paper copy, we can do that at the district office or at Ross High School in the main office. So right away, here's some of the demographic information we want to collect immediately on our students. We need some parent information, what grade level, our students' information. We need to know whether or not the student has a WEP or an IEP, a 504. If there's any special services for EL, have they updated their final forms? Because we know that that is our primary means of communication. Do they already have access to a device? And do they have access to internet? Because that will be very important with this. And then we ask for a little bit of narrative. And we really want to hear from our students here in this aspect as to why. Why do you want to do the virtual option? I'm hoping that this provides us with a really good insight to our students and gives us some pieces of information that we can go forward with, maybe some additional planning. The second page, our committee and planning, we looked at some of the things that went really, really well last year when we had students learning in a virtual setting, and we considered some things that didn't go so well when we had students in a virtual setting. And so what we really wanted to be clear is that this is a choice. This is an additional academy. This is an additional pathway. We offer seated instruction for all of our students, and we would love for everyone to come in and be part of that seated instruction. But if truly choosing a virtual option is something that works best for your student, then here are some things we really need to be thoughtful of. And we felt that there needs to be a commitment on behalf of our student, a commitment on behalf of our parent, and a commitment on behalf of our district. So this is what we say we're going to do as the educator to provide that quality instruction and to support the student. But we also need that student to commit, and we need our parents to commit. And then at the bottom of that page allows an opportunity for all three parties to sign this contract and say that we have an agreement together. We're all in this together to provide the most quality instruction that we feel is appropriate for this child.
Just a couple of things. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I'm sorry if I was reading something while you were speaking and didn't
no.
catch it.
No, you're fine.
What is the duration of the commitment and
Yeah.
what's the flexibility?
That's where I was going just
Thank
now. And
you.
actually,
Okay.
I don't know if it's on there specifically.
It is.
Okay.
It's under.
We decided quarterly was the way to go. You know, semester last time created a lot of hardship for people, especially as things changed at home, things changed in the community. So we decided that every 9 weeks we would allow the option in
Yes.
and out. So that hopefully will be a little more flexible for families. Another thing we learned for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So number 3 under the district expectations is when students select the option for virtual learning, they can later choose to come back to an in-person learning on a quarterly basis.
Yeah. The other thing, Joe, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but that difference between full remote learning model and the blended learning, you get into questions of eligibility for athletics and extracurricular activities as well. As a matter of fact, if we did that other model, we would have to create an entire new school with an identification number called an IRN and actually create a whole new and assign an administrator and would have all of its own reporting and all that. So we thought, we're just not ready for that. We thought this still allows us to keep in touch with our students, still get them in the building as needed or as necessary. And it sort of keeps them still under our umbrella directly. Not that they wouldn't be otherwise, but this just seemed like a way better option for us.
Mm-hmm. Number 4 under that district expectation speaks to that and says that students enrolled in this virtual academy are permitted to participate in those extracurriculars and athletic components pending on any eligibility that we would have in place for all of our Ross High School students. We also look at whether or not our students, we want to make sure that we're providing a successful opportunity. So number 6 looks at, under student and parent, looks at if it's not being successful, then we as a team, and we have 3 huge entities here, the student, the parent, and the school district, will come back together and have a conversation about that. If we're not being successful in providing the instruction, if the student's not being successful in receiving and interpreting that instruction, we're obligated to take a good look at this and make sure that we got to make a juggle. It's not okay to just not have a learner.
And part of this conversation too, case by case, literally case by case, will be whether or not those students were already in a virtual setting and were they successful then? I mean, so we don't want, and I hate to say it, but there are some kids who just would like another way out. And we want to make sure that isn't the case. So if they had already been in a virtual model and it was unsuccessful, it's very unlikely that we'll give our blessing to this online option that we're offering because we went there and it didn't work last time. So what's different now? So that'd be part of the conversation we have with each applicant. So,
So that'll be vetted at the time of application.
correct. Before school
And
starts.
then if the green light's given, then reassess as the performance.
Absolutely.
is.
That's right. So if the wheels fall off first quarter and they're just not keeping up their end of the bargain, we'll say, I'm sorry, this model isn't working for you. We're pulling back the deal. Absolutely. Now, we're afraid, and I just want everybody to know, I don't doubt that we may lose some students to other online academies through this, because I think there are some families, those same families got used to that home thing, successful or not. So if we want this option that they stay with us, but if it's not working for us, then we have integrity in our program. We want to make sure that it's meaningful. And if it's not working, we'll say, well, you need to come back into school. And they very may likely go to another online school. And that's just what we'll have to do, I think, to maintain integrity of our program.
Another piece that I would just like to point out is that I've highlighted under the student aspect, and it's there under the parent expectation as well, is that we take very seriously the commitment for state testing. We are obligated to provide those end of course tests. We know the importance of the students earning points on those end of course tests for their graduation, to meet their graduation pathway. It was sometimes a challenge this year for our fully virtual students. We had a variety of scheduled opportunities. It was a struggle sometimes to get all of our students to come through the door and sit down and take the test. That's part of this expectation. And we're laying that out on the front end. And it's hard. It's hard as a freshman to think about your graduation pathway. That's a long way away. But that's when they're taking algebra. And all of the research in the world is going to tell us that their best chance of getting a qualifying score on that algebra end of course test is when they're sitting in the algebra class. And so we want that test time to be aligned to when the content.
The IEP team determines the least restrictive environment for each student on an IEP. That will continue to be the case.
Absolutely. This will all be vetted through that process for sure.
And if the IEP team, as a team, decides that that is not the least restrictive environment, the IEP team will prevail in that situation.
We will hold the line.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you want me to sign in blood? Right. As Mr. Detweiler stated, we have approximately 30 applications that have been turned in so far over the summertime. I do look for a couple more to come in between now and next week. I just know with being in the community and being out in the stores and talking to individuals, June is end of school and summer, and July is summer, and then all of a sudden, end of July comes and August comes and it's school time. So what do I have to do? And so I do look for us to receive some more applications, and we'll make sure that all of those get processed as well.
I do think, too, some parents were waiting on a little clearer message on masks and mask wearing. The parents I'm hearing from, most of them are concerned that they didn't want their children wearing masks. That's been the most that I've heard from. So I think the fact that we've got at least one step closer to that being the case until something else changes, that'll take some of the pressure off. This is why I think those students want to be back and their families want them back at school.
And I think the additional vaccine clinic that we've put information out about as well offers a whole nother option for some of our families that were maybe waiting and still deciding to be able to, and then potentially we'll have both of those doses in before school starts as well. So a lot of changes right now, a lot of pieces and parts. So that is our Little Giant Virtual Academy that we have for grades 9 through 12. Now, those students who in grades 9 through 12 who have applied for and will be part of Little Giant Virtual Academy, their primary instruction, the content of their instruction will come from a software platform called Edgenuity. And April, I was like, I don't remember, but I already wrote it down. Back in April, we board approved the purchase of the Edgenuity, and we did get a multi-year contract, so we feel really confident with that. Again, we had a team of administrators and teachers that helped kind of wade through some of the different options, and we worked with our ESC to help give us some additional information. If you remember last year, we had Schools PLP for our online learning platform. We decided that it would be best for us to, as a district, to switch gears and to try a different option. Edgenuity offers us multiple course options. There's a variety. There are AP level content courses as well as entry level courses and courses that need for students that maybe need some assistance in their learning. So I'm very confident that we have an offering for every student. And I think that is something that our committee felt very strongly about with Edgenuity. A course is designed to take approximately 80 hours to complete. This is rigorous content. I can never say that this is going to replace classroom learning in front with being right in front of the teacher. But I do feel very confident that there are some stop holds built in to the lessons and the units for Edgenuity. There is rigorous content that is involved. The learning is rigorous. So I think, like Mr. Detweiler said earlier, we don't want to rubber stamp anything. We don't want to we have some integrity to say you're going to receive a Fremont Ross High School education. And you're on the path to receive a Fremont Ross High School diploma. That means something in our community. We like that means something in our community. We're not looking to make a change to that.
This program replaces,
Full PLP.
And
which replaced A plus.
A plus
Correct.
and peak.
Oh, okay.
You've heard all three of
Okay.
those words.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a variety over the last few years. This now is one system,
One system for all.
district-wide.
So the students who are in school who need credit recovery
Will also be
doing
involved in
this program.
That is correct.
And the students who choose home
The blended learning, yes, same thing,
online, they'll be doing,
one platform.
they'll have access to student or teacher
Correct.
assistant.
Correct. In addition to, we've also purchased as part of our Edgenuity contract, we've also purchased some, I don't
Called
remember the
teacher
exact
support?
words. It's a tutor assistant with the company. So there are evening hours and there are weekend hours that our students will have access to via email, via chat, and via phone-in. So I think that too is a wonderful support for our students. And that's not our staff, that is staff associated with Edgenuity.
That was an upgrade, wasn't it?
That was an upgrade.
Yeah.
I just really felt strongly that when we were looking at support of our students. And what
So
we
if
could
it's
look
2 in
at.
the morning, as some kids are apt to do, there'll be somebody available.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to show you a little bit of Edgenuity. I know that it's very, very new. It's still very new for us in the district as well. We have been fortunate enough to use it this summer in our credit recovery program, our summer program with Ross High School. So our teachers and students who have been involved all summer long since June, I want to say 21st, we've had students earning credits, and we've had teachers that have already been trained. We had training back in June with the administration team from Ross High School, as well as those lead teachers that we're using it this summer. So that's a big advantage. We kind of got our hands on it right away, but we are very much still learning. There's a lot of pieces and parts. But one of the things that I just wanted to show you a couple of items. If I go here under reports, I just want you to be able to see that we can progress monitor our students' involvement. We can check their attendance level. I will be able to look at when they logged on and for how long they were on. So if they were on for 3 minutes or they were on for 32 minutes. In order to complete that lesson. That will be very helpful, I believe, for us. We also can look at their lesson mastery. And so as we, as the educator, go back and reflect on some of those pieces, we'll be able to see that maybe the student did very well with the introductory lesson or the overview lesson, but then when they needed to go back and review a lesson, maybe they missed content. Do we need to step in and do some additional reteaching because they understood it the first time they heard it, but when they had to come back to it, they didn't have it yet, or they still didn't have it. So we need to go back and try again. So I think that lesson mastery piece will be very nice for our educators. We can be able to monitor individual students or in a group. So if I end up with 5 or 6 students in an Algebra 1 class, I can look at all of them to see if there's something in common that they've missed. And again, individually, I can monitor my students. So I think that's some really nice pieces in there. Also, within the communication component, we know that we use Final Forms as our primary communication with our families, and we are always encouraging our families to make sure that their Final Form information is updated. So students involved in Little Giant Virtual Academy will still be a Ross High School student and will receive all of that communication via Final Forms, but we will also be able to set them up for some communication and announcements and emails directly related to Edgenuity. So let's say there's a change in the teacher time at Ross High School. We can send an email directly to this group as opposed to sending it to all 9 through 12 Final Form students. If we know that there's going to be a network outage, or we know that there's a pending, it's not going to be available Saturday morning from 6 a.m. till noon because of a piece, we can send that information directly out to them. And that will, I think, be a very clean communication and will be helpful for us. The final piece that I just wanted to, I want you to be able to take a look at some of the courses. And when I say that there is a multitude of courses, we have electives, which includes world languages, business, technology. We have math and a variety of them, and every content area is the same.
You see there's the letter OH in front of some of those. I may not be able to see it, but these are Ohio curriculum-based courses. So it's nice to know that we're
directly to our Ohio standards.
Okay.
I would like, if I pull up this one says FRHS. So that is Fremont Ross High School, tied to our Ohio standards. This is English Language Arts, grade 10, section A. So this is first semester of a Ross High School, grade 10 English class. So if we have a 10th grader involved, this is what their first semester will look like.
Denise, is this the exact same curriculum that the in-school students will have? I mean, I realize there's probably a little difference because it's a different
it's close.
environment,
Some of the stories, some of the content, especially like in language arts, some of the stories or the novels, the literature may change. But one of the advantages that we felt really excited about coming through the committee that reviewed was the tie to Ohio standards that Edgenuity provided. Because if we're teaching the same standards, then that's our best bet. There may be a little bit of tweaking and pacing. It may be a different, like I said, a different novel, but the same concept, the same key structures.
And these also, if you keep in mind, are lined up to be semester courses. So we could have, if a child did choose to come back at the quarter, there'd be some gaps. The same as if a student moved into the district. I mean, so it's a very similar kind of thing, but it should be the same standards. Now, the order in which they're taught in language arts might be a little different. Math tends to be a little more progressive, so hopefully we'll have too many gaps.
I'll come right back to you. So just to have you take a look at this first piece. So we have the analyzing word choice and author's purpose in short stories. And right here we have the guided notes that would assist our learner to help move through that process. That guided notes would be a strong intervention for some of our students. There's a warm-up to build schema and create an anticipatory set to get our student ready to be a learner. There's the instruction, which all of the instruction components include video. Then the student, after receiving the instruction, then comes to the assignment that they must complete. This one includes some additional instruction, so we continue on. And then there's a small quiz, and it does provide the answers so the student can then keep looking at how they're doing and monitor that. I will tell you that another component of Edgenuity that we really liked coming through the review committee was the fact that the student cannot advance from item to item. They must complete the instruction in its entirety. They must watch the video. Now, if they turn it on their screen and they walk in the other room and they leave their computer, and that's nothing that we have control over. But they have to work through the item and in this order in order to get to the next component. And again, we felt very strongly about providing a rigorous piece of instruction to make sure that it was very quality.
You think too, some of these programs didn't have really a video component or a very well developed video component. So you're asking sometimes a struggling reader who's missing out in language arts, okay, now go and read all this. Sometimes that's just a challenge. So having a video portion in all of those is going to be really advantageous for some of our students.
Okay. It's also going to be overwhelming for teachers. Who is or the students who are being monitored? Are they with their Fremont Ross class? Who's going to do all that monitoring?
No, that will be, as Mr. Detweiler stated, one of our plans with our ESSER grant, our federal
Okay.
COVID relief monies,
Okay.
is to make sure that we are providing what we've called in the district for several years, focused intervention tutors. So our plan was to provide focused intervention tutors to every building, and we told principals about this in the spring so that they could be preparing. So my recent conversations with Mr. Zeller is we will look at one of those focused intervention tutors to be available and present to this population of students. We may change up the schedule a little bit. We may have some variety there, but have access to those students and be able to help encourage and monitor if needed, and be
Check
watching
in
that
on.
attendance. And
Sounds good.
Thanks.
How will those tutors communicate on a regular basis to the high school administration so that they are in the know as to what's going on with these students as they go along,
yes,
so there aren't any surprises
Yeah,
When they come back the
Right.
next
at the
month.
semester?
good point.
I had a question also.
certainly.
As you were scrolling rapidly, it seemed to me that I noticed some offerings that aren't part of our curriculum.
Like Latin, for example. I'll say, yeah.
So the thought occurred to me,
Yeah, you're not,
in German,
right?
if students would like to take an elective class in a language we don't offer, could that be done? I mean, it seems like this would open up some opportunities.
We had that conversation, and we're looking at all that, and really would like to really grow this. We kind of want to ease into it, though. We also don't want to lose control of the whole thing, and you maybe have kids finish up their entire 4 years in one semester. I mean that's a little bit out there, but so we are going to have conversations, and we'll be back to the board with this very topic. Just how far do we want to go with this online option for? I mean, there's some really cool stuff on that list. It might be a pathway to it, a lot more offerings for our students for sure. But right now, I'm not sure we're ready to make a recommendation, and we've just been kicking it around. And actually, Mr. Zeller he's kind of a go guy. He's ready to roll.
Yes.
But we're like, well, there's some things to consider, and credits and diplomas and pathways and board approval and all those other things. So I think we have to vet some of those things through actually our curriculum quality committee. So there'll be some conversations coming, and we'll be upfront with you of all those things for sure.
I could see some exciting
Absolutely.
opportunities.
And we have purchased a site license. And because we had no idea how many students would be participating, we also know that we're going to use the same program for credit recovery, potentially same program if I have a student on home instruction. So it will be nice to be under one platform. We have the availability of offering it to all of our students. We'll figure out a few of those pieces as we go forward.
But certainly something we'll bring back to the
We're on the
board,
front.
just to talk about, okay, what do we want to look like? Because I think one thing we're coming out of COVID is the world is
Yeah.
we've cracked open a little bit here, and there are some things that we really do need to wrestle with, a new reality, and that's it. That's one of them right there.
So it sounds like we have a very nice supply of support with tutors.
Yeah.
What about the actual online teachers? I know at the beginning we had a hard time really getting enough online teachers. How
One
is
thing,
that now?
yeah, if you didn't pick up on, we paid for, because even that school's PLP last year had a component where we could have paid teachers that weren't part of our district to support kids. We chose not to do that. That's one of the things I think we've learned. That may be something we missed. So through this, they will have support for instructors through the program, as well as our own focus tutors in the house.
Okay,
And-
so the actual vendor support isn't
Correct.
just tutors. They may be the actual teacher.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
And the
That's right.
instruction is embedded within. So in this particular lesson, the instruction is provided with the video and the teaching and the reteaching as the student moves through that component.
Okay.
But then there's an option to like email help through the program, not even through us. So, or both. I mean, so the kids would have
Correct.
two options.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you, Denise. Is that?
Yes. Any
Kinda
other
it?
questions for Little Giant Virtual Academy or Edgenuity?
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
would like to reinforce my concern, lack of a better word, ensure that procedural safeguards are followed to the letter with students with disabilities.
Sure.
Because this is an educational placement. It could be viewed as a very restrictive educational
Right.
placement. And we don't want restrictive educational placements for our students with disability.
Very good.
Noted. Thank you, sir.
Really noted.
Mr. Detweiler, when I think back of the concerns that we had during COVID, which, you know, the academic achievement and accountability, the duration of the commitment, a decision of whether that style of learning is most appropriate for the student being done collaboratively and not just because it's what the student wants to, attendance monitoring, all those things. You've done a wonderful job of addressing all of that.
Thank you. Because my ears are still on fire from hearing from some people. So honestly, I appreciate that very much. And it's right. We learned something. I think shame on us if we don't try to meet those needs. Yeah.
And we really did have a really full committee of administrators and teachers and at our level at the district office, and really trying to go back and forth. And we've been kicking this around since end of January. And just trying to look at all of those options and try to make some corrections. We learned.
And I think too, the flexibility of this too. So if things would get worse COVID wise, this program will allow us to just off we go.
Sounds
Very exciting. Thank you. Would you like me to proceed, Mr. Corbett? Yeah, I think that's, yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Denise, for your
Thank you very much.
presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise. Yes.
Okay, student and staff achievement. Item 1.
All right, thank you, board. If we continue on our regular agenda for this evening, I've got, first of all, 3 resignations, Sarah Beth Cooper, Michael Berkowitz, and Veronica Zychek. Item 2 are supplemental contracts for varsity assistant tennis coaches. Item 3, supplemental duties. You'll see a varsity assistant tennis coach and a middle school football coach. There is William LeGroux and Jordan Mackey. Turning the page, continuing then to item 4. We have 2 status changes which confirmed steps and or change in status. So for Alexis Gideon, a degree or a step change, and for Ed Baptista, went from half a stipend to full stipend for varsity football. Item 5, this is our Fremont City School Employee Handbook. You'll note that's what I mentioned earlier on. I had a couple days to change for vacation, but we got that noted. So that is the end of that section.
Okay, could we have a motion to approve items 1 through 5?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Laird,
Second.
second by Mrs. Espiritu. Any questions or concerns regarding items 1 through 5?
I just want to point out to the board that those are the items that were time sensitive, and I appreciate the opportunity to bring those during our work session meeting. Thank you again.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Ms. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Gorbetz?
Yes, motion carries. Fiscal matters. Report of the treasurer.
I do have the June fiscal year 21 financial report to go over tonight. If you looked at your board packet that you got sent out, you will notice that the finance look a little bit different than what we had seen the last couple months. So I just kind of want to go over what happened and why there was such a jump from, I believe it was like we were $800,000 to the good last month. And now when you look at the, whether we were at a deficit at this year end or a surplus, we were at a one, just want to make sure my number's right. We had a $522,000 deficit spending this year rather than we were doing so well the last 2 months. Our biggest thing was that we had slated a lot of our expenses to go or to be used with ESSER funds. We were all good to go. Unfortunately, ODE did not release those funds until like 3:00 on June 30th. So we were not able to use those to offset expenses in June. So a lot of that deficit comes from those expenses not being able to be used with the ESSER funds like we had planned. Those have been released and we are making the request for that money now, but unfortunately didn't help us for year end. We were able to offset some of those expenses with some of our other dollars, like wellness dollars, to help lower that deficit for this year, but it is something we do want to watch and be aware of. We don't want to keep doing deficit spending. We do want to keep moving in the right direction. So we are going to continue watching that.
You remember we had an awful lot of things we were applying to ESSER 2 round, and it literally came in at midnight hour. And the budget year, if it were between May and June, maybe stop me if I go off a cliff here, but if that happened between May and June, it's no big deal. It's not year end. So you just kind of carry it forward. But the end of June is you got to cut it off. It is what it is. You got to pay the bills. So as I understand it, Megan and her crew had to go find some cash to cover what wasn't able to be paid out of ESSER. Now those funds are available.
Yes.
And we'll be trying to kind of play catch up, and our team's doing a great job of keeping it all going. So look how complicated there.
So Megan, now that we have the ESSER funds, are the restrictions on those dollars set that we're unable to reimburse our operating? Or are we, do you just have to now find new expenses within that time frame that meet the definition, or can we reimburse ourselves for the government's less than timely disbursement?
It's probably something we'll have to juggle around and go, okay, we can't use these expenses now, but there's more expenses that would be similar costs. None of the big stuff that we had on board agendas, like the devices that we ordered, that's kind of why actually they're not in-house yet, is because we held off on ordering them so that we made sure that that money could be used for them. So there was other expenses that we can juggle around to use that. It's not like we won't be able to use the money with expenses for the rest of the year.
So the money's actually been given to the district. You just have to appropriate it according to the definition with new expenses.
Right.
Rather than
Yes.
reimbursing what we paid.
Right.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think, unfortunately, what we had to pay up front, we won't have to pay later, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we should still, bottom line, end up at the same spot.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good, Mr. Detweiler.
Just checking.
You're
Thank you.
listening. So I just wanted to go over those kind of highlighted points on why we ended so differently than what we had originally thought. So then I just ask for approval on the June financial report to be approved.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve item 6 by Mrs. Ray,
Second.
second by Ms. Laird.
Oh, well, it's going to be.
Yeah.
With July. Yep.
For any further questions or discussion items regarding item 6?
Another thing I just wanted to, and Megan and I just chatted and make sure I didn't, once again, step out, but that AMP repayment that we've paid billions and millions of dollars back to AMP is, we're about to do the last one. So that's another thing that's been negatively impacting our bottom line.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be done with that and we can.
Too bad you can't tie that to ESSER.
Yeah,
Would be neat.
That'd be nice.
Maybe if you read the fine print.
Denise is our wordsmith. Maybe she can figure out a way.
Maybe.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Ms. Spiritu,
Yes.
Mr. Gorbetz.
Yes. Motion carried. Board member communications and information requests, Mrs. Ray.
Well, thanks to Denise for providing information on the new program, and kudos for you guys having to work through all this, just coming out of last year. And Chantel always said that many good things were going to come from the COVID, and I guess a year of not knowing and trying different things, and it's kind of neat that you're kind of honing in on all of the negatives to try to bring out the positives, and just hope the best for this year. There's still a lot of unknowns. It's like, but for your time and working through all these frustrations. Thank you.
Again, excellent job on forming the virtual academy.
Yes.
I think that anybody that would watch the video of tonight's meeting would have a very thorough explanation. And regardless of what people approve or don't approve of a virtual environment, I think they'd hear that and say it's reasonable. It's a very reasonable program. So thank you, everybody, on that.
Yes.
I agree. The virtual academy program sounds great, and the staff took the time to see what through the pandemic this past year, what worked and what didn't work, what could be better, and you guys moved it forward into the new program, and it sounds like it's going to be much better, and hopefully the students like it.
I'd also like to thank Denise. She's been on the spot here, like 80% of our meetings this year.
Yeah. Thank you.
But as she pointed out last time, this is what we do. So it stands to reason the person in charge of what we do as the director should be forming the board and presenting as well as she does. So, fortunate to have the directors we have
That's for sure.
at each level.
Absolutely. I'm surrounded by experts.
So, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Ms. Laird.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Espiritu. Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Ms. Spiritu.
Yeah.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Gorbetz.
Yes. Carried. We are adjourned.